Welcome everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me as always is
Big Josh. Howdy, howdy.
As well as
Professor. Happy New Year. I was a little cheeky about it before, but I think I will say Happy New Year.
and Cam is away on assignment. And we are here to wrap up this is part 2 of our Stranger Things season 5 part 2. 10 years later, we finally here.
Well, part 2 and the finale, right? We're talking about the finale.
And the finale. Right. Yo, man, first of all, the finale was 2 hours long. I did not know that going in. I was like, oh, these are the last 4 episodes. I was like, cool. Watch this. I watched it. I got to the finale. I was like, why is this so long? That's when I started to pause, go do stuff, come back to it. Like, oh man, you know what it is? I can get it all out my chest now. Is that we've been with these characters for like 10 years, right? I've come this far, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna complete the journey. Like, I think Cam watched a couple episodes. He's like, Josh, you've gotten a couple seasons in, but not the whole thing. But either way, there's nothing compelling you to make sure that you caught up to be when now we're at the penultimate, finale. And like now that me and Jansel have gotten to the end, we're like, you're not. I mean,
the fact that I made it. I didn't it's funny when I opened when I went to watch Stranger Things, what wound up happening was I didn't realize I didn't finish season 4, which is telling. So I was in the middle of season 4. I started in the middle of season 4. I said, all right, screw it. I'll just finish watching. So I watched the rest of season 4, the remaining 5, 6 episodes, however many it was that I had left. Then I started season 5. And I made it 2 3/4 episodes into season 5, and I just bailed. I could not do it. It was excruciating. It was painful. I just could not find myself getting up to do other stuff and twiddling on my phone and, taking phone calls. Whereas normally I'd wait until at least an episode was over. I did everything but pay attention to the 3 episodes that I did watch.
Yeah. And honestly, it doesn't really get that much better. Like it is cool to see where the characters get to at some point, but also I talk about it again. It's been 10 years. All the kids are now 10 years older, and they look 10 years older. So they overall for the second part of the series. I think me and Dee were a little bit optimistic at the end of the first part of season 5. Yeah. We're like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see what they do with it. And
I wasn't as put off by those first 4 episodes. Yeah, I certainly didn't have the same reaction that Josh did, but I can understand having that reaction if you already have become disconnected with this story, which I'm sure so many people have, because it's been 10 years, but they've only produced 5 seasons of 8 episodes each. So that means that there was about 5.5 years of wait time in total, which means that they drug this thing out way longer than it should have ever existed.
100%. And even in the second part,
hold on. Let me jump in real quick. The hairline, the flat top. I saw the episode that you guys did when you talked about the flat top, and it didn't really land on me until I watched it. And oh my God. Oh, that was, as someone who does not have hair, as someone who used to have a flat top back in the day, nobody, I don't care how bad your barber is. And I'm not going to harp on this too much because you already, that was a focal point for the last episode we did, or you guys did. But that hairline was just a crime against humanity. Like, nobody's flat top looks like that. It's just...
and they keep trying to say it's on purpose and things like that, and that might be the case.
Nobody would do that on purpose.
On purpose, as in serving the story. The whole thing is that he doesn't have access to a barber because those people have left and fled. They're in quarantine. That's established very early on.
I caught that.
I'm not saying that is a legitimate reason for that hairline to look that way. I'm just saying that that's the excuse that they're coming with in response to that. But the hairline notwithstanding, picking things up in part 2 where we come back from they released the first 3 episodes on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I can't remember exactly which. I guess it depends on what time zone you were in. And then, so now we get the second set of episodes, which I'm pretty sure they released 3. So they released 5, 6, and 7.
Christmas, it was like Christmas, and then they kind of stretched them out over that time. And then New Year's Day, or they did 3 on Christmas, and then they did the final finale on New Year's Eve.
Oh wait, so the first 4 were released on Thanksgiving Day.
Yep. Yes, exactly.
And then they did 5, 6, and 7 on Christmas Day, and then New Year's Eve was the chapter 8, right side up. So I think we should go for each chapter just to talk a little bit about each one, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The first one, chapter 5, being Shock Jock. And so basically they come back, and this is when we see I think this is immediately after Will does his sorcerer thing, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So pick up from 5, that part. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would say, like, this one was interesting because, we find out that Will got powers. Cool. Great for Will. He hasn't been doing nothing for 2.5 seasons. So finally gives him something to do. And then you also find 11 Chief finds Kali, which is kind of cool because you're kind of curious behind what's the door. We also get a little bit more of a very, very, very underutilized Lyndall Hamilton. She did what she could with what she had. She's awesome, but like they just didn't give her nothing much to do. But she's a little bit more in this as well.
We'll come back to that because I think with the Linda Hamilton thing, because I think we'll talk about a lot of positives. And there's a lot of negatives to talk about with each one. But you're right. Dr. K was absolutely, they didn't do anything with her aside from just have her there. And obviously the actor is strong enough in her performance to just kind of make, lemon out of lemonade, some lemonade out of some lemons here where they literally give her nothing to do. And I compared it to what they did with Matthew Modine in the first 2 seasons because I didn't feel like they gave him much to do. Obviously, he was supposed to be the mad scientist and, tied to 11 in that way. But he was very ineffective and inoffensive in that, you expect mad scientists, especially the ones that where you're doing the 80s nostalgia mad scientists, to have some kind of peculiarity about them, some kind of myopicness about them, something that drives them to reach for that Frankenstein idea of grabbing dominion, unable to determine what's God's dominion versus what's man. Like those are the more interesting, mad scientist figures that we get, but we didn't get that here with the Linda Hamilton
and
character.
And the other thing I would say is the one for this second part of Stranger Things, like to me, our main cast was just kind of like fumbling along. Like there's pieces here that you're kind of interested in, whatever. But the supporting cast actually kind of picked up the pace a little bit. So in 5 and 6, we got a little bit more of Holly, which is Will and Nancy's younger sister. You got a lot more of dipshit Derek, the fat white kid who's he kind of stole the show in part 1, and he kind of plays a nice little pivotal role these like 5 and 6 episodes. And so your supporting cast is picking up a lot of the slack where like our main cast is basically, there's a crazy thing happening, but hold up. Then you have a 20-minute monologue conversation about whatever.
Oh God, no! And you know what? So I'm going to talk about the positive stuff before I get, because I'm realizing that all the negative stuff is starting to creep right up,
bro. That's all I got is negatives. Like I don't have anything positive to say about the 3 episodes I saw.
So I would say
I got some positive stuff.
I'll keep on the positive. Then I will keep on that. I will say the one positive overall for the second arc, I would say for the full season, was like the supporting cast that got introduced were all something that was kind of interesting, right? Like Dipshit Derek is a great example. Fat little white kid. He kind of he's an asshole. He's very 80s coded as that, right? There's always a kid that's like kind of the mouthy,
always
whatever.
an asshole, but there's something else.
He knows more than everybody else, but he can't chill enough to like put everybody on game.
And so
there's something beyond his smart mouth.
Yeah.
There's something human there, and it's drawn out of him by the main characters.
And it's cool that they did that because it helped overall, right? It kind of helped to bring a fresh face, but also kind of help the narrative. When he does show up, he does definitely help push the story along. And then the character of Holly, which is Will and Nancy's younger sister, like at first she's kind of just like the damsel in distress type of a thing, but they kind of give her a little bit of an arc too, where it's like, okay, I am the kind of the wayfish, like, oh, someone needs to save me. And then by the end of the arc, she now gets a little bit more confident. She rallies the kids together. She leads them out of the woods and that kind of a thing. So they had little pieces of. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And so they added a little bit of pieces for supporting cast to kind of add to it, to kind of give a little bit of brevity and some funness to it. What's his name? Murray, the weapons dealer guy that was always around from the other previous seasons. Whenever he pops up, he's always funny. He has some of the best jokes overall. Mm-hmm. With that kind of fun. Even the Robin character, like she was kind of just there for about season 4, and I think in 5,
Uma Thurman Jr.
Yeah,
Uma Jr. She looks so much more like her mom every time she's on camera. Like she looks almost nothing like Ethan. Like that's all Uma in her face.
But she acts more like Ethan, I would say. Like
she does have more of a Ethan like energy, and you do see, like, you could tell that's his kid though. Like you could see it in her face, but it's just the Uma Thurman gene pool dominates that. Like it's dominating.
So, and I would say another positive is they use her character to help Will come out. There's a whole telling the group that he's gay and that kind of stuff. And prior to the big monologue moment, there's a good earlier moment with her and him having a conversation, talking about being different and blah, 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 blah. And it felt seamless within the narrative, where it didn't feel like hokey or whatever. And I think they did a good job. It felt over, like, from a negative part, just drawn out way too long. But at least her character was there to help push that narrative along. So, like, for me, like, a lot of the supporting cast did help push things along, because they weren't there just to be there. Like, and I would say the only one sadly was underutilized was Lucas's sister, who was super fun in seasons 1, 2, and 3. And they're almost like, we almost forgot about her. Well, she got to be here for the 5th season, so we'll just throw her in. She'll be around, and she does some stuff, but it's like you can tell it's an afterthought.
Because she's a standout. She was a standout performer in the second, third, and the 4th season. But I'll come back to Lucas's family, because that's, again, there's some things that will be a complaint. But just going back to some of the specifics in the episode, there were moments that were always that ended up being strong, but they were undercut by something that wasn't really working. And one of those things is the often too utilized device of characters stopping inexplicably in the middle of high octane action, high stakes action, to have these conversations. It was exhausting. There was one moment where Max in the comatose, or how did he pronounce that? Escape from Camazotz. Yeah, because everything is D&D and all coded and all that stuff. So, but Camazotz is the dream hellish landscape that Vecna has created. where he holds him hostage. So her and Max they find an opening, and it's Max's opening. So Max tells her, "Oh, you can't come through this one with me because that's my body, that's my consciousness. You'll just be trapped inside my mind, basically, if you do that." But that moment probably lasted for like 5 so long that I was like, okay, when is Vecna gonna just grab these two and be like, you wasted your chance. Yeah. I'm here now. I'm taking y'all back. You should have just ran when he had the chance. They stretched that moment out for, I think, a good 6 minutes. Not only did they do the talking back and forth, then they had to do the slow motion run with the Kate Bush in the background playing. Shout out to Kate Bush. I'm sure she got so much money. She just rolling in dough after these last 2 seasons. Like 100%. Nobody knew who Kate Bush was before season 4. Now an entire generation knows Kate Bush and probably loves Kate Bush, at least that song anyway. But yeah, so there was a repeated, that device or that method strategy in the plot was repeated several times. They did it again with Nancy and Jonathan when they shoot and then the wormhole thing. Oh my God.
We can say that's a negative and not have to go into why it's a bad.
Well, I'm just gonna say it would have worked. I always assumed that the Upside Down was connected via a wormhole or something. Like it always struck me as either a pocket dimension or something, or connected to another end point in space time.
Yes,
I always assumed that. So when they reveal that it is one massive Rosen bridge, like literally like the way you think about a wormhole where it's connecting 2 planets and everything on the outside of that is nothing but dead space. Like it's just dimensional space that is maybe occupied, but we probably can't see it or whatever it is.
Or access it, right.
Or access it, right. So that visual was great. I loved it when they zoomed out and showed the wormhole, because I was like, that is how scary I would imagine a wormhole really looks. But then they get the mechanics all mixed up, because I'm like, so you mean to tell me the wormhole is pulling everything through, and Hop, Callie, and 11 is just standing there? And like she's able to put like a psychic shield there. I'm like, come on, man. If your nose bleed from you moving a book across the room, that wormhole about to pull your brains out your eyeballs. Like, come on, you not stopping that force.
Training.
Yeah, there you go.
Training.
Well, and so and also I would say the part that they did, or I would say, we're we bounce between positive and negatives. That was a little more of a negative, but a little bit of the positive is when they did the more larger reveal of Vecna's like world and like what the landscape looked like, and it was dope. It was very hellish and like like deserty, and the way the monsters came, and like in terms of the one thing I would say,
I thought it was derivative, to be honest. Like I've seen a lot of hellscapes. They all look just like that. And like, I was
going to get to that part. Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to get to that part. So I was like, I think for what the show had been teasing up until that part, it made sense. It worked in terms of like how Vecna looked like and how the world looked like. They looked like they're from the same place. From the inspirational part, yes, 100%. We've seen these types of hellscapes together. When you get into the side, the big monster and all that, there's a lot of very spidery type of looking things, and the vagina mouth and all that kind of stuff and all that. So, but I like that they at least pulled back so you get to see a little bit more of it, and that's part that I liked about it. The big monster scene was kind of weird and didn't really make sense to have, but whatever. It just they had to do something. They had to do something with the budget that they had. They're like, oh, hey guys, you got this budget. Like, what are you gonna do?
That was just to give them the excuse or to clear their way to do that theater release. To be fair, that from what I'm hearing and reading, that help theaters a lot, because apparently the theaters are keeping most of the profits from that.
All of it.
All of it. So that's 25 million. So that's a good deal. That's more than most of the studios ever do for the theaters.
And that's a layup for Netflix to do, right? It's one of those things that kind of add to that like goodwill type thing. Because again,
Netflix especially with the Warner Brothers merger and what have you. That's and the fear that nobody's going to have theater movies in the theater anymore once the takeover happens or once the merger, is completed. Yeah, that was definitely like here you go, guys. It's not going to be all that bad.
Well, and I think that's going to be them trying the strategy, and that's sort of the idea of being a tech innovative company. So they're going to try things, and they have the money and capital to do it, to take those risks and not feel like they're going to lose a whole bunch of money. But going back to the show, I think bottom line is part 2 picks up after the sorcerer. So we've established that Will has this ability to hurt Vecna, cyclically connect with Vecna. We learn what he's planning on doing. We learn about the wormhole. Then we keep getting these moments. The moment where Steve goes in on Eddie being stupid, and then him and Dustin fight, and I'm like, these are the type of things where you're like, okay, you have to remember the Duffers brothers stretched this out because Netflix asked them to stretch this out. The first season, if you ask me, should have been a contained beginning, middle, end, a TV movie, and I know that's how they intended it. And that was it. Yeah. Then when they start, so now we're here at the 5th season where they've had to stretch out this one concept and make it epic and big enough to last and to justify why here we are 5 seasons later. Last season, they established that Vecna created the Mind Flayer, that the Mind Flayer was just something that he simulated. Then they redid that this season to say, oh no, the Mind Flayer was the alien entity that invaded his mind and convinced him. And then they did it again, where then he says, no, the Mind Flayer didn't have control. It was me. I was so I'm like, They kept doing this. They kept doing this. It was just literally and not establishing or landing on anything. The other thing is
the origin. They did a quick origin story of our boy Henry about how he turned evil, right? And again, traumatic event. I thought that part was cool, interesting, and how they got to it also interesting. And then there was a part where like, oh man, you were just a scared little boy just like me, and blah 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 blah. And then Vecna's like, nah, I choose this actually.
It was really it's bad writing. Like you have this child come down and he sees a man bloody with clutching something, and the man is clearly hostile, telling him to go away. Most kids gonna run and not stop until they find an adult that they trust. They're not going to try to help this dude. Like he was too aware to be a child in that moment.
Yeah.
And they wrote it that way. And so now you say, okay, you wrote it so that he has no choice but to kill this man with a rock. And somehow that is supposed to be his trauma. This is the thing that's keeping him locked in that moment. It was suffice to say, one-dimensional storytelling. And it's clear that they just don't. They had to stretch this thing out because Netflix is asking them, and that's what we were left with.
It felt stretched. It felt like it took too long to tell the story that they laid out to try to tell, and because
they didn't know where they were going with it.
Yeah, and I think
also I would say.
Go ahead, Cam.
I would say at the end, what you get is, and I'm trying to think of positives. At the end, they give you a very 80s style. Your last 30 minutes is like 80s nostalgia, right? How a lot of 80s shows end, right? they're all talking, they're having beers. Man, I wish we could go back to how it used to be. And there's a time jump, right? 18 months later, they're all going to graduate high school now, and that kind of a thing. And so I would say from a positive end, the time jump from 18 months later to kind of show what's been happening since, right? The town's finally getting back to normal. Everyone has people have moved away, people have done things and all this. So they kind of
murdered like 20 United States military personnel, and he's like going out to eat with Joyce.
Yeah.
Nothing has happened.
He's back to being a sheriff. Like, it's
you murdered like 90 military, including like some lieutenants and colonels and stuff. Like, bro, you going to jail, you disappearing. If like, come on, you're not going back to your life.
And so what they did was, they do a time jump 18 months later, big reveal happens, blah, blah, blah. And so as it's starting to kind of, it's all nicely, neatly tidied up, right? Oh, reveal about what's happening with Elle. And, you see Hop and Winona Ryder, he proposes finally. So now they're going to go get married. The kids are all graduating. Awesome. This is dope. And so the final scene is how they wrap it is they're playing D&D. And the one thing I did like about this season is they kind of got back to using D&D references, because they kind of got away from that in seasons 3 and 4. And I think that was a good part of the show with the kids that kind of kept the thing grounded. And as it started to go all these crazy places, they got so far away from it, except for just using a name here and there, where I think in this season they kind of brought back to D&D elements of it. And so at the end, all of them are playing D&D. They're trying to figure out a way to win whatever Mike's he's a dungeon master, so his game. They figure out a way to do it, and then Mike's like, "Cool," and then you guys all lived happily ever after. And then Max is like, "What the fuck? That's boring. What the hell happened?" And so Mike actually starts to talk about each of the characters and what happens, and we have a nice little montage of like each character doing whatever they're about to be doing, right? Dustin's in the library, Max and Lucas are happy in the freaking movie theater, Will is being gay somewhere, and like, and so that's literally the scene.
That's the scene. That's I don't even know what you would call what they did.
It's not even a negative. It's not even a negative. It's just like, that's literally the scene. And then so you get this space, and so it's kind of interesting that at the now I'm saying this all in a somewhat of a positive way, because that's how a lot of that, it's the Wonder Years where Kevin's narrating the monologue at the end, and you see flashbacks of like who's going. So it has that feel. And I see what they were trying to go for. And then they have a kind of a back end of like what really happened to Elle kind of a thing, which are kind of like, okay, cool.
Fill me in on that.
No. Okay. No, cool. This was lazy writing from the moment that started to the moment it ended. There was some good, to your point, Cam, there was some good moments in that finale. I think the biggest thing that I took away from those last few scenes, is that is what's lost when we end that period in our lives.
Yep.
We never return to that place. It was a period of fantasy and imagination, and and obviously they go through that literally in fighting monsters and going on quests and adventures and stuff like that. But there's a part of
before you continue is like with Nancy and Jonathan and Steve, they have a moment, and Robin, they have a moment as the older folks being like, Jonathan lives in like New York, and Nancy's going to
he goes to NYU.
So they're all adults now, and they're like, I have new friends, it's super awesome, but it's not the same as hanging with you guys because we've all been to a certain thing. So they hit those little notes correctly, I think. But going back to the bad writing, I'll defer to Mr. D'Angelo.
Well, I was just saying, I think Josh has something to say, but I just was adding to taking what you just said about the older kids, as well as the last scene with the younger ones playing D&D, is that they were going in reverse. And I'll give them credit for that. The first thing we see is the adults. We see Joyce and Hop making their plans for the future. Then we see Nancy, Steve, Jonathan, and Robin on the roof. Robin, we know, is still working at the radio station. Steve is now teaching and coaching, and the other two are in school. But what's happening there is we're seeing this reversal of, again, that process, that cycle that we all go through, right? When you have Hop and Joyce representing the middle age of this is the end of that, where you settle down someplace nice with the person you care about the most. And then you have the Steve, Nancy, and all of them. They're just starting their college careers and that youthful period of being in your 20s. And then the Mike, Dustin, Max, and who am I forgetting? Mike, Dustin, and Lucas. They are at that period where they really don't know what's next. They have an idea of what they want to be next. They're graduating high school, but the one thing that they know for sure, and then we get the next scene, which is Mike and all of them, that the old kids putting their D&D binders on the shelf. Again, a very lazy, low-hanging, low-brow visual device, very easy. But then you see Holly and Derek and the random black kid whose name they never mention. That's, I guess, supposed to be replacing Lucas.
That's the part I would go. That's the part I would go. I was telling you that's the lazy part to me. Like, like if they would have ended it, on some like, yo, we finally played our final game. We're putting our character books away. I'd have been like, cool. And then when they rushed in with all these random ass kids, I'm like, okay. Cool, Holly and dipshit Derek, but the other randoms, we don't care about them and don't need them there.
Well, and so finishing the thought is that works as a device with Mike watching them is because, again, they just in several scenes strung together showed us that cycle of when that period ends. So now we see Holly and her friends, they're excited about it, they're energetic. Mike understands that they're about to embark on that same adventure, that wondrous, imaginative adventure of being a child, of not having any worries or any responsibilities, of being able to just come over your friend's house and, mess around for like hours and hours to the point where your parents are like, come home. Like, I told you to come home. And so that part they got right. Visually, they did that. It was lazy, but at the same time, I appreciate it because, again, I think the beauty of Stranger Things and what made it a generational event, cutting through the nostalgia and why several generations can connect to it, is because we're looking at that youthful, adventurous period, that coming of age period. And all of us, whether we grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 00s, it looks different, but the journey is very much the same. And you saw it, the cycle from the scene with Hop and Joyce to the last scene with Holly and her friends, that full circle of what the adventure that they went on, that we saw the fictional version of that, but those moments come to an end. And that's what I think we're left with. They have their memory. And then that goes to the ending with 11. Very lazy and to me, just too much of what we've been getting lately, of these strong female women characters built to being magnificent, only to be sacrificed in the end. We saw it with Daenerys, we saw it with and now we see it with 11. And they very, again, lazy, leaving it ambiguous in the way that they did. And writing it that way, it was very, very lazy. And so as far as I'm concerned, the character's dead because there's no way she survives that. But the Duffers, again, you have to explain yourself too much. It's bad writing. And they've been explaining away all weekend. Exactly. They've been explaining everything.
And that's the thing I would say too, is it's like, I would have actually liked it if they didn't put in this last monologue of what happened to Elle or his imagination of it. So you have to say, is she alive? Is she not? Like it actually would have been
more, and that's what it was.
It would have been more impactful if that part was out of it, because then, hey, we've like going back to what Dee said. You have all these powerful women characters, and then they always sacrifice them or they kill them, or some tragic fate or whatever. But if that's how they were going to end this, she did something heroic for her friends could go on and live life. Like, we didn't need an extra, this is what could have happened. And everyone's like, is that what happened? And then like, well, I don't know. Do you think
it's the lazy way of the character race ending?
It's
the lazy Starbucks.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the lazy Starbucks one.
It's the lazy Starbucks ending in which Ron Moore actually built that up, and he paid it off. And even though that moment was I still kind of like get watery eye at that moment when Lee turns and then he turns back and she's just gone. Like I'm like, oh, that still hurts me. But
yes,
that was what I'm talking about. That emotion was there because Ron Moore built that to that moment. Yes. Not just in that season, but in the previous season, from the very, very beginning. That was a moment he was building to. And so it lands exactly, it hits you exactly the way he wants you to. He wants it to hit you, and he doesn't have to explain what happened there. Your mind is going 1,000 miles of wondering what was going on with Starbucks. The whole season was she for a fact she was never alive that fourth season when she came back. Not the way she existed before. Something was different, but you never know what and you never know why, except for she was meant to help them get to Earth.
Yes.
And that works. But that was the beginning of that sort of period where these woman characters, powerful and courageous, are then and mythical, but she was mythical, very mythical, just like Daenerys. 11, they tried to build the mythical coding around her, but they kept dropping it and losing it. And then they tried to come back to it at the end by calling her a mage. It's like, no, but you forgot that. That would have worked if you had kept her in that from the very beginning, or built her up to be this mage that exists in that archetypical narrative.
You answered all my questions, because that's what those are all the things I was going to add. That's what I was alluding to when I tried to interrupt before. But all the questions got answered. But and I could tell that they weren't. You could tell that you could tell that they weren't. That they didn't have a full understanding of where they were going to go and where they were going to place each character at the end. In a meaningful writer, God of your own universe kind of way. Like they were definitely writing it as they went. And you could tell they were, and that's what really turned me off.
The military, what did they do? What were they doing? What was their end game? Like even when we get to the Linda Hamilton villain, and they reveal through Callie that she's been using their blood to artificially impregnate women with the same strain of blood as Vecna to find someone that it actually work, just like Elle. Again, convoluted stuff. And another thing that annoyed me, this is just these fools go from one world, our world, Earth, to a whole nother planet, and the gravity is the same. They can breathe oxygen, and like the science mind in me, and I'm like nobody fantasy, even
not sci-fi fantasy.
Well, then don't put science in there. I
was gonna say that's my put thing. Science elements in there.
Do not put science. Don't tell me this is a Rosen-Eisen bridge that's connecting 2 points of space, and then it's only sucked when it's uncontrollable and you destroy the thing that's stabilizing it. It's only picking the things it's pulling through and through the vacuum. Like that's
where you're able to drive a truck from here to there, and like the I think it was episode 2 of season 5.
They did it
where,
again in the finale
whole
where they
truck through.
they do it again in the finale.
In the finale, yeah. And so I think that at the end of the day, it's one of those things where they hit the nostalgia pieces that they wanted to, but then they stretched out the things that didn't. Because, like, again, watching this as a full thing, like if they would have dropped all this at one time, it would have been a slog to get to be honest. Like, just like Josh chopped out episode 2. But so they were smart by splitting it. So they were smart by splitting it in 2. They were smart and this is to the marketing department, I give them the props. Smart splitting it 2. Smart dropping the season finale in the movie theaters as a little, like, the thank you kind of a deal. So it satisfies the fans that have gone to this far away. But then, as you said, peeling back the layers, getting back into the narratives, like through this whole season, every single character had a pair, had one scene at least that's a pair, and they had a heart-to-heart to hash out whatever thing from X amount of seasons ago, right?
In almost every episode. Every single episode.
Yep. And it was a pattern, and it got annoying because it got boring. And another thing that I was noticing was, by the end, you have the parts of the characters that you enjoyed. You didn't really get to see much of that, right? Like, so the Dustin character was the fun character in season 1 and 2, where
now he's always dirty about it.
And he's super emo. He is, I'm a rebel now because Eddie was a rebel. I want it, and again, if this is the narrative arc of it, okay, cool. We can all rock with that. But then there's nothing left of what the original part, right? Maybe like Will went from the weird, like kind of wafy kid. He's like, he's almost like in a bubble all the time. We can't touch him because he's going to break, whatever. And then now he's this powerful, whatever. And at the very least, I thought for his arc in this story, it actually helped. Like it came to a conclusion where I was like, okay, cool, right? Like a lot of people were saying, I think a lot of on the LGBTQ side, they really recognize like how he came out in terms of in the setting of the 80s, which I thought, again, well done, great little monologue, all that kind of stuff. I have no problems with any of that. But again, go back to Mike, right? Mike was like kind of like the leader-ish of the group, right? He's the one that kind of got them together to make sure that and then by the end of this,
he was very muted in this season.
Yeah, he's muted in the rest of it. He's kind of there.
Yeah, I was like, I said it to myself, like, man, Finn Wolfhard must have been a little tight about these scripts because they basically don't let Mike do anything. And like, you don't even get the impression or remember that him and Elle were a thing until the very end, until those last couple scenes where you're like, oh yeah, they were boyfriend, girlfriend for the bulk of this series. And they did care about each other, but the only one of that worked in the end that they actually did justice for was the Lucas Max.
And that would be my last positive thing. Yeah, that was the last positive thing I will say, because one of the things they did keep with that relationship was that part of like it felt like a teenage relationship type of a love, and in terms of
felt like they cared for each other, truly,
cared about each other, and they grew. And so from when you saw them from the beginning all the way to now, it was a satisfying arc of like, yeah, I can see them. Lucas, he was at her bedside for the whole season of 4, and season 5, he was like, I'm not giving up on her. And he actually did it, and they actually paid that off, which is awesome. So again, we have these.
He even runs her from, takes her, Vecna sends, and there's something else that good and bad mixed in there. So he sends Demodogs after Max. And of course, they got this other thing, and I hate this, where they tease death, and then they don't do it, or they do something else. It's a bait and switch. So we see the Demodogs heading for Max's room. She's obviously out of it. Lucas is the only one there, so he would have had to defend her. And obviously, the Demodogs are like fast, vicious, like basically Komodo dragons, but faster. And and so then they cut to show he's not there in the room, and he's running. He's got Max he's like holding her, and he's like running with her. And it's a even though you look at it and you go, okay, what's the chances of him being able to carry that dead weight and get away from these fast moving vicious hounds but it's a nice moment though.
It's a nice moment. Works. It works. He's carrying the damsel. He jumps into the elevator. The demagogues coming. They're about to get eaten, and he gives him a kick in the face. Okay, cool. And so I think my overall thing.
One more thing I just want to add to that is that as bad as their writing is, they have created moments that pay off these characters. Max had before her season 4 attack by Vecna was very independent. And even though she and Lucas became close, there was a struggle there at first because of the fact that she is very independent, takes care of herself. So now you have fast forwarded to this season where she is in such a vulnerable state that she has no control, not even over her body. And as she figures out, the person that always holds her down, who's always there for her, is Lucas. And he's shown that from every moment that you see them together. Like, he's trying to pull her out, and he's determined to get her away from those demo dogs. So it was a cool thing that they at least paid some of the things that they developed with these characters off.
And you're right. That would be the best of them, right? Even with the Nancy and Jonathan part, they end up breaking up for reasons. And like, then Steve,
they had another scene with the 1-on-1 when they shot the safeguard of the stabilizer of the wormhole. They shoot it, which should have killed them instantly, but instead it just melts them into the roof.
Fantasy. This is not sci-fi.
You're right. Well, that notwithstanding, they melt down into the roof. And then the roof is coming down, melting like a candle all around them. They decide in the middle of that, oh, I don't like the way you watch this movie, and I don't like the way you read the book and with the light on. And I literally said, are you serious? Is this happening right now?
Hey, let's break.
I grabbed the remote and I was like, skip frame. I was literally skipping frames, and I had to do that a few times because those dialogue scenes serve nothing.
So I guess my question, considering you guys finished it and I didn't, how would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the series overall?
I give it a 3.5. And I say that because
1 to 10?
No, it's a 5. Oh, out of 10.
He said out of 10. I was about to say that's harsh.
3.4.
You know what?
That's closer to where I'm leaning, but
that's my type of ranking for everything.
I would still give it a solid 7. I think there's enough entertainment and enough nostalgia, especially as a true 80s kid that could understand all the references and all that. Like, watching season 1, I had so much fun because I was like, oh dude, they put some time and effort and pay attention to a lot of small things. And even in all the way up to season 5, even though there is quibbles with it, there are a lot of fun stuff into it. And like, again, they give you those Goonies, those Monster Squad vibes that we don't have that. We don't have that anymore. Like, this is like, again, this is set in the 80s or whatever, but there's very few things that give you those types of vibes and those types of moments of like your friends in a crazy situation having fantasy adventures. They don't have that. So I would give it a solid
the culture 7. Anymore. And I think that's why so many, like my nephew who's 17 years old and his friends in that group, that's why I think they were very much attracted to it, because it is a period piece that does look and feel like a different point in time in the lexicon of American culture, the decade of the 80s, a decade in which kids did go over each other's houses and play board games and things like that. There was no PlayStation, what was it, Atari, maybe, if you had enough money to get one of those. And that was a big if your parents decided to do that.
Around my way, one kid had it and everybody went to his house.
Everybody was over his house. Yeah. That's how it was. In my neighborhood, we had a Super Nintendo, and usually the kids would come over our house and we would play Nintendo. But that's a different world from the majority of the Stranger Things audience. So this is a very novel thing for them, and in a way that they can't experience because the culture has changed totally.
And I would say, like, like my girlfriend, she hasn't watched it at all. So she was watching me kind of see, and she was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I told her, I was just like, you know what? If you want, we can revisit from season one and go from there. Yeah. But if you want, that would be fun. But I just I'm all at the tail end, girl. I'm at the tail end.
I really enjoyed season 1 and 2. Season 2 with the mall stuff and Thriller and the Ghostbusters cuts and the Halloween. Exactly. If I ever rewatch, I would rewatch season 1 and 2, and I would just be done with it because what you get. And to answer your question, John, I think for me, I would give it like a 5 out of 10, just to say that it's right up the middle post season 2 or season 1, where they sort of tried to step out to be this serial drama that continues to live. Yeah. For a 3rd and 4th and 5th season. I was really over it after the first season. I didn't expect or want or think there was needed for a second season. Second season rolls around. They got they surprised me. They got the thriller soundtrack. You got the Halloween thing, which it lends itself perfectly to it. And then you got the mall culture, which was a big thing in the 80s and a little bit in the 90s. So there was more of that to look for. And then now the Mind Flayer, even more with a different twist on that. So chapters are Stranger Things 1 and 2, they work. And that's the only reason why I would say they work well. So, but the other seasons are clear, stretchy, filler, trying to appease the commercial aspect of this production, of this
diminishing returns after season 2.
and diminishing returns. Yeah. And so that why 5 is as far as it can go.
And so it's interesting because 1 and 2 is pretty super dope. They're pretty dope. And like I said, good nostalgia and fun world building too. Right. But like you said, like with the 5, it was the amount of nostalgia and just like wasted scenes and wasted minutes. Like it's funny because
lots of wasted stuff, lots of wasted scenes.
And we keep talking about that more. It's like, when someone's like, oh, should I watch it? I'm like, only this part or only up until a point. We have the same thing with a lot of other shows that we've been watching and other, like, especially when it comes to like the superhero stuff and all that, where it's like, it's wasted minutes, right? Do you spend the time to invest to watch season 5 of Stranger Things? And I'm like, not really. You don't really need to save that time and go watch something else or go touch grass or something. But I think
because it's just an escalation of really season 5 was just a continuation of season 4. If you would put season 5 and 4 together as 16 episodes, that could have just been it. That could have been it. Now, you didn't need 16 episodes to finish this, just like you didn't need 2 hours to finish it. But you have, this is what the what you call it, the capitalism demands, and this is what Netflix and the commercial aspect of that product demanding.
And I would be interested because I watch a lot of K-dramas, and K-dramas are pretty much about, if they're not touched by Netflix, they're about 16 episodes, 24 max. That's usually, and it's only one season. And if it's a double, if it is a second season, it's because it's tied to something in America. So either Prime licensed it or Netflix licensed it. So that's why they get a second season. But most
very much the BBC model. Like, like when they were doing Sherlock, Sherlock was intended to be one season and then out, and it took off.
Just like Luther and just like Black Mirror. Black Mirror, same thing. Intended to be the couple series that I forget his name that they did, and then it got popular in America, and then here you go. Every year, every 2 years, you get a new season of Black Mirror, and like Josh said, it perfectly describes it. Each one is diminishing returns. Not the way it used to be. Anytime it gets in through that American filter, it
and I think
drops.
That's the problem where it's like, before our old model of TV was like, we got 24 episodes a season, and then there'd be a break for 3 to 4 months, and then we get another 24 episodes. So there was a lot of filler.
Maybe 3.
Yep. So there was a lot of filler and all that. But they wrote for that filler, right? So they utilized those 24 episodes well, or it was, 2/3 of it was good and the rest of it was filler stuff and Monster of the Weeks. But we have a point now where, like, Stranger Things would have benefited for, you guys only have 16 episodes over 3 years. Make it happen. And how are you going to tell that story? And I think that would have cut a lot of their meat and really got to the heart of what the actual story would have been. And that would have been because, like I said, we had like those first 2 seasons, like even the first one, top to bottom, great narrative. Boom, boom, boom. It was interesting. Second one, we're like, do we need this? And then we got to the end, we're like, oh, you know what? Not saying it as great as the first one, but it was worth our time. But then once
because season 2, exactly. And season 2 seemed like, to me, the part of the treatment where they were like, okay, we have some extra stuff if we do get more a chance to make more. We have planned, because you could tell Max wasn't somebody random that they threw in there. And that was just, that was a season 2 arc with her and her brother and that whole connection and all of that stuff. They had the stuff there. It's just, that was it. That was the threshold. But then they were asked again to come back and say, okay, we want more. We want more. And we want more.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And I think we got, going back to the America stuff, it's like, the filmmakers and showrunners and people that can can say no are the ones that usually do tap out. Like, Kevin Williamson over in with Supernatural, where he was like, yo, I got 5 seasons. Once it's 5, I'm out. Like, I keep my name on it, give me my money, but I'm not. But that was Eric Kripke. Eric Kripke. I always say Kevin Williamson from Scream. But Eric Kripke, he was like, yo, but keep, this is my story. Y'all want to keep going? Cool. Pay me my checks, but I'm good. I got other things I want to work on.
Oh yeah. He was like, no, he said, I only planned and wrote material for 5 years for Supernatural. He had, and he said, he's like, I had in mind, it would start here, it would go here, it would plateau here, and it would end here. That was it. And he's like, you guys want to continue? That's fine. I'll be give me my creative credit, and I'll be an executive producer. And he even appeared on there a few times. Like he was not like anti against the show, but he made it clear, like, this is the story of Sam and Dean that I'm telling. Everything else is what they're adding in later.
Yep.
So exactly. I have a first. I have a first. I'm gonna rate it below D'Angelo. I'm going to give it a 4. It stuck around too long. Exactly what you guys were just saying. It stuck around too long. It's stretched in ways that, like I mentioned before, provided diminishing returns the longer it stayed around. And I feel like season 2, even season 3 would have been cool if they just chopped it there. But I couldn't finish season 4 the first go around, made myself finish season 4, and then couldn't finish season 5. For much the same reason that I stopped in the middle of season 4. I didn't even realize that I stopped in the middle of season 4 until I went to watch season 5 thinking I'd already completed. And it just, so yeah, I'm going to give it a hard 4, man. It's just,
what?
It wasn't enough.
I'm going to give it a 3.5 now, because I just thought about something. No, we're talking about the series, but I thought about something. They had fans wait for 2 years for that. Right. And it's the same thing as Game of Thrones. You had fans wait for almost 3 years, and this is what you give us. Now, for some people, this was satisfactory, and I have nothing to say to that, because that's how they see it, and they enjoyed it that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you ask me in terms of like, okay, does this work as a storytelling? Is it working as a production or as a series that isn't just made to make money, to brand out a bunch of stuff, which they did? There was Stranger Things stuff everywhere. So they made a ton of money off of this last season. But in terms of, and I'm joking, I'm not giving it a 3.5. I'll go back to the 5. I'll let Josh have that 4 because he rarely goes lower than me. So I'll keep it at 5. But I will say they did earn that 4 because for both seasons 4, in between season 3 and 5, regardless of the strike, regardless of COVID, they stretched this thing out in a way that they did not need to the point where I remember before they even announced it, I would always ask my nephew, like, when Stranger Things come back, are you going to watch it? He'd be like, that's because it's like, at this point, why do you care? Like this show started when he was like, I think
10, right? Or like 7
or 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
7. I'll ask him. He'll correct me afterwards. Sorry, nephew.
But no, you're right. I think that's the thing where it's like, because we had this, my younger brother, he's watching it. He watches it with his kids, and like, his kids watched it. Like, his oldest is 14. So she started watching it only like maybe like 5 years ago. So like she started like probably at season 3, basically. And so he watched it with her, and he was kind of saying the same thing. He was like, it was cool, but it's like, yeah, for 2 years we got this, as opposed to just filming back to back, get probably half the amount of episodes and then keep it moving. Like, yeah. So I think now, and they're saying that this is one of the last shows of the legacy shows that that's been going on, that's been ending in these last couple of years, and we're now moving to
legacy
the era
for
of legacy for Netflix. Like,
oh, okay.
One of their last,
yeah, that's they Gen 1, period.
yeah. So like in terms of they're like biggest show, and those high budget shows, right? So now we're at a point where they're shifting to shows that are more like The Pitt or these shows that aren't going to cost $20 million an episode. They're going to cost more on the $1 million episode or $2 million or whatever. So for Netflix, we'll see if Netflix shifts to that. We never know. But for the rest of streaming, that's what they've been doing, right? They've definitely been paring down and not trying to make these epic field things anymore. The Sandmans, which also cost a shit ton of money, and all these other things. Now they're trying to smash it down. So this is one of the last ones. Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's across the board. When you look at A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, those episodes are like 30 minutes a piece, and there's only 6. And I'm like, whoa, that's like these episodes are usually 59 minutes. Like if you look at Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, they had 59 to 62 minute episodes, and that's the full thing. So we are moving into a different era where now serial dramas are getting the same runtime as a sitcom, which wasn't done before.
22 minutes, 30, 36 at max. But yeah, you're right. So this is one of those last ones of like big budget productions and all that. And I think now that we have that shift to less money, shorter turnarounds, and trying to figure out to fill that gap. We're like, this might be, I'm not gonna say it's the last one, but it's in that realm of the last ones that we're not gonna get as I'm curious to see if there's going to be another fantasy type of level of something like this. How are they going to do it in this new time thing of time crunch and with the budget constraints?
Yeah.
So 2 things come to mind there. Number one, I think everybody kind of saw Rings of Power, what the Amazon did with Rings of Power, and was like, nope, okay, we're done. Let's
talk about like,
because Rings of Power is easily the most expensive television series ever made by a mile.
And they shot themselves in the foot with first Wheel of Time and then Rings of Power, because Wheel of Time wasn't cheap.
Yeah,
there's no way that they made that movie.
And they went 4 seasons, 3 seasons, something like
3 before they stopped. Yeah, I didn't bother because I was like, with the reception it's getting, it ain't gonna make it to finish the story because Jordan published like 9 books, and then there was it's a
they're
lot
huge,
and they each like 1,300 pages. Like they're like crazy. That's like really, really epic fantasy. His stuff is long, but yeah, you're right. That Rings of Power, Wheel of Time, that was
And the other thing is, it started in 2016. They started doing Stranger Things in 2016, bro. And it just it's a lot. It's a lot. It's not even a lot. It's too much. Season 1, 2016. Season 2, October 2017. Season 3, 2019. Season 4 in 2 parts in May and then July in 2022.
Yep.
That's 3 years apart.
That was 3 years ago.
And now this year, like it.
And literally 3-4 years ago, because they debuted in the fall. So that means that you got the whole 2025, and then we got Stranger Things season 5, and that's a legit full 3 years since the last one. We got a new president. There's a lot of stuff going on that didn't happen in that time frame. So that's why they get a 5 and for 5 seasons.
And the fact that I didn't finish, like I didn't even realize that I know when I don't finish stuff. I didn't even realize I didn't finish season 4 of Stranger Things. Like I had no clue. So when I went back, I was like, oh, episode 5. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to finish it then.
Season 4 is hard to forget because Kate Bush is all over that. I mean, you running by the end of that, by the end of episode 8, running up that hill is in your head. Like you probably running up that hill yourself just to try to get away from that song.
But yeah, I would say that's the thing where we're at this point now where like, what are we going to be doing in terms of just the budgets, all that stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see this next year of everything in terms of like, I mean, we're going to, I've been watching a bunch of random ass CBS stuff, and that stuff is so formulaic and like by the numbers and specifically for a very specific reason and a very
specific
Have you
made your way up to Landman yet?
Not yet. Taylor Sheridan is the dude that's been killing all of that. He owns Paramount at this point. He has like 4 shows on there with a bunch of sequels. So, but a lot of shows like that specifically are getting greenlit because of that, of how they're doing their stuff. So, we spent a lot of time talking about Stranger Things, and we can finally put it to rest. Thanks to everybody that got to this far.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's worth saying that, Stranger Things was an event, like in terms of
definitely
its presence in pop culture for whatever that's worth. But also just being this generation's, ironically, because it relies on the nostalgia of the Monster Squads and the Goonies and the Little Monsters, but it is really this generation's version of the Spielberg, Chris Columbus type of storytelling that puts children at the center of the action, at the forefront of, children versus the fantasy world, or the kids versus the monsters. So I think in that part, it's been really fun to especially if you, like me, were able to enjoy it with some kids of this generation. And I mentioned my nephew and little cousins and stuff like that, all liked Stranger Things. So you kind of get to feel that excitement for it, and by living vicariously through them.
You mean like Star Wars Skeleton Crew? Oh, okay.
I don't know about that because nobody's told me that they've been living vicariously, but it's
what?
It's very possible.
Josh, you watched that?
Takes it back.
No, I did not.
I watched it. So
the acolyte is the cutoff.
But I would say Prodigy is the same, kind of similar, where it's Prodigy and Lower Decks, like that.
Yep.
Okay, Star Trek Prodigy. I'm saying like it's a comparative
kids
thing.
And,
Yeah, where if you are an adult Star Trek fan, there's some things pulling you there. And if you're watching with a child or your kid or something like that, you feed off of that energy because they're seeing this stuff for the first time and they're excited about it. That's what I mean.
No,
I think they're going to try to pull the same. I think they're going to try to pull the same maneuver with Starfleet Academy.
Yeah, I agree too. And I think Stranger Things has a sequel or something like attached to it or some randomness.
Oh, really?
No, it's already coming. They've already they set it up.
Tales of 85 or something like that. Or
to tell you how bad the writing is, because I was like, oh, there's the literally immediately when I saw it, I was like, oh, there's the spinoff set up right there. Yeah, I was like, there it is. There it goes. Yeah. They couldn't even hide it. They couldn't even be tactful about it.
Yeah, it's yeah. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Fun while it lasted. Went on too long, and but it was something idiosyncratic to this generation. So for that, they have that, and they'll have it forever.
Yeah, and another thing about that sequel, it's actually animated. That was the thing. Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but also once again, thanks for rocking with us. Listen to Stoic Rant. Like, subscribes, the follows, the shares, tell a friend, all them good things, and we'll be back. We'll be back talking some stuff. Happy New Year to all you peoples. It's fun.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yeah, I said it at the beginning.